Now, we had an interesting conversation about jerseys and color, quality. Now I'm going to have an interesting conversation, I think, briefly, discussing fashion and the color green. Now, I'm not saying I have anything to do with this. I'm not saying that Jana Marie Sweetheart is involved in this whatsoever. I'm not saying that. So let's talk about the color green for a moment. There are people in the world who think that salmon, the color salmon, is pink. And those people are usually ostracized by society. There are also some people who maybe don't discern differences in the color green or in the texture of green. Now, I'm going to show you a shoe. I'm not saying this is a new shoe that was delivered yesterday. Right? Cute shoe, green in color, right? Has a little bit of texture to it. Okay, we like the texture. Nice looking shoe, yes. Okay. Now, let's say somebody wanted to have this shoe. I'm not saying who. They wanted to have this shoe because they don't have a shoe of this color. And when someone, I'm not saying it was me, and when someone, very beautiful, very intelligent, usually has hair that behaves, said, hey, you know, you do have a shoe that's that color. Why don't you go for the darker version of this shoe that you don't have in that color? And this other person, who we don't know who it is, very brusquely, I would use the term brusquely, said, I don't have a shoe that's color. That's a color. So there was an understanding, someone thought, that it would make sense to get a shoe that's in a darker color than you already have. And then the shoe arrived. Cute shoe, right? But the same color. Prosecution evidence 1A. I argue today in this court. Oh! The Jana Marie says, this is a one-sided story. If you happen to know someone who has another point of view, you are free to share it in the comments section. But the prosecution has not started the argument yet. So we have this shoe that is exactly the same color as the shoe I just showed you. Wonderful texture. Even the sole has a little bit of green in it. There was an accusation made against this shoe that it is a lace-up shoe. And the prosecution is here to argue today that if you look at the shoe, it's not a lace-up shoe. The laces are there only for show. This is a slip-on shoe. Uh-oh. Someone says, I like slip inside. Easy to wear and comfortable. Someone also says, no, it's not the same color. Oh. And now we have an ad break. Okay? So, someone says they do not want to show the shoe ties. So, we have similar functionality, similar fashion wear. Put them together and compare colors, someone from the chat says. That's the next part of the prosecution. And then we're going to rest our case and take it to the jury. Commissioner Gordon from Florida weighs in. There are apps that can tell you with almost 100% precision the hex number of a color point and shoot exactly. I don't need those apps because I have perfect color perception. And it's been proven many times. This and this are the same color shoe. Now, this white sole might confuse you a little bit because this is a greenish color sole. But if you just look at the colors of the shoe, they are, for all intents and purposes, the same color shoe. The texture, they both have very nice texture. But wouldn't it have been wonderful to have a new pair of shoes, new pair of shoes in a darker color rather than repeating the same color, where someone would complain about this shoe for months and months and months, that there is nothing to wear with this shoe that looks good. And yet the exact same color is purchased months and months later under protest. Someone else says, hey, they are no. And look at the texture of this slip-on. Cool shoes. It looks a little like a straw mat, but it would be so much more beautiful and more effective if it were just a little bit darker. Now, I have thought, how can I make this darker? I do have Sharpies here, black Sharpies, that if I strategically colored all around here, that we'd have a darker version. So the prosecution argues that there was a perfectly good shoe. There was a beautiful color. There was probably a gift. Don't you dare. We're not saying we're not naming any of the people in this conversation, by the way. So there's no danger that can be attributed to me and anyone's particular shoe that I'm holding in my hand. A perfectly good, beautiful colored shoe was rejected and has not been worn for months on end, being replaced by an identical shoe that does not have decorative laces. This shoe is a slip-on, and so is this shoe. The prosecution rests. I win. And there's nobody who can tell me I didn't win. Now, we do have this feeling now because of this conversation that we just had that was in general and not directed at any particular person, that there is going to be not a request, but a demand now for a darker green color shoe, which was my preference from the beginning. What was probably someone's preference from the beginning. And when that person asked the other person, why did you ask, should I go for a dark green or a light green? And the clear answer is the dark green, and the light green is purchased. Why did that happen? Well, this person probably said, I was just asking for your opinion, and you gave it to me, and it was the wrong opinion. So now there's a big shoe controversy going on. Someone from the audience says, that's correct. We'll get more shoes, slip-ons. Yeah, that's going to be the payment now for having this conversation on the live stream. And I'm not terribly concerned about getting the second pair of shoes because those are the shoes that should have been purchased in the first place. Because now that I have pointed out that this hated shoe is now the same color as this new shoe will be as hated as this color shoe. Because that's how things work. So psychologically, theologically, and lawfulogically, I believe I have made the best case today. And I do thank you for your support. I did not go to law school, but I do practice presenting prosecutorial cases Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern, here on Bowls.tv.